Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I guess, Bloons Tower Defense 6, the first episode of something I'm starting, really as a way to kind of talk with everybody about things that either I'm interested, things they want my thoughts on, essentially whatever. So, that's kind of what I'm here to do. I figured, why not play something a little peaceful? Kind of just gives me the ability to think and speak. So, assuming you read the title, which I would hope you did. I feel like that's an important part of things. But assuming you read the title, you know that this episode of this series, which I guess is kind of like a podcast of sorts, I don't know. It'll happen basically when it happens. It's not gonna be something I'm constantly like, oh, let's do this. But the point of this episode is to kind of talk about myself in the sense that, like, I feel like you don't really know a lot about me. So this episode, I got a couple questions from people, but mostly I'm just going to be kind of telling you all a little bit about myself, what I like, what I'm interested in, all that kind of stuff. Maybe go into why I'm doing YouTube or why I'm, doing what I'm doing. Nothing crazy though, nothing too crazy. So, first off, let's start with, what am I interested in? Well, unsurprising to most, Freddy Fazbear, Five Nights at Freddy's is something I do quite enjoy as a series, as a franchise. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of which games I think are the best or blah 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 blah, but if you know the channel at all, Freddy Fazbear has played a big part in the channel's history. So to say I'm not a fan of Freddy Fazbear just feels like I'm lying at that rate. I need to get Geraldo soon. But no, Freddy Fazbear, Five Nights at Freddy's. Despite that, however, Five Nights at Freddy's isn't even like my most liked series or franchise or anything. My favorite fictional character is actually Godzilla. I love Godzilla as like a franchise. Yeah, we'll get Geraldo up front, I suppose. I love Godzilla as a franchise. And he's kind of just been, it's kind of been my favorite for a while. I have very fond memories of going to see the 2014 movie in theaters when it came out. And from there, it just kind of clicked. I guess, I was younger then, so maybe that's why it clicked. It's kind of crazy to think that was 10 years ago, but maybe it clicked in my head because of that, because I was so much younger. But point is, nevertheless, it clicked in my head and it flipped a switch, and all of a sudden that was kind of my thing. That was what I liked, was Godzilla. Now it's kind of become like an obsession, I guess you could say. I collect, I'm always kind of looking at what's next for the franchise. I'm always excited to see what comes out next. I was super excited to see Godzilla -1 in theaters, and it blew me away how good that movie is. That is, if I wanted to get someone into Godzilla, there are a couple movies you could suggest. If you want someone to have a fun time, just kind of, watch whatever, not necessarily a great movie, but a fun movie, there are a handful of movies. I mean, Godzilla x Kong is something I can think of. I had a friend who watched Godzilla x Kong and Godzilla -1, and they liked Godzilla x Kong more because it is just a fun time. You sit down and you watch it, And it's not too boring throughout the movie. There's a lot going on, but it's not exactly like a story-driven movie. You're not gonna sit down and then walk out and be like, man, that's a really, really good movie. And there are plenty of other movies in the history of Godzilla's filmography that I could recommend too. Like, plenty of other movies. Godzilla Final Wars comes to mind, and that movie is just kind of stuff happening for a very long time. I'm just gonna buy this for now. Because I have nothing else to do. This bottom path. We're gonna get a bottom path hawk. But like, Godzilla Final Wars comes to mind because that is just a goofy, fun movie. Not to say it's a bad movie. Not at all am I saying it's a bad movie. I think it's fun though. It is. You're not gonna walk out of that movie being like, man, I just saw the greatest movie of all time. You're gonna walk out of that movie being like, I don't know what I saw, but I had a fun time seeing it. But if I really wanted to tell someone like, hey, you want a good movie? Like an honest to God good movie? Godzilla Minus One is up there for me. And the very first movie, Gojira, the original Japanese cut, is up there for me. Both those movies are so good in terms of like a storytelling movie and characters and just everything. Now there's other movies that are good in that regard, don't get me wrong, but those are probably my favorite. Right off the top of my head, I know a lot of people enjoy, I believe it's one of the 64 movies. It's either Godzilla vs. Mothra or not Godzilla vs. Mothra. I think it's called Godzilla vs. The Thing. Funny enough, but the original Godzilla vs. Mothra, and then Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. One of those movies, I forget which one, but they have enjoyable characters that you can sit down and watch, and man, I just got mutilated. Yeah. I'm not too worried about those leaking. Or those. We'll live. I don't need it. But, those movies, a lot of the older, well, not necessarily a lot of the older movies, Godzilla in the Showa era kind of starts more serious and then progressively gets a little goofier. There's still some more serious moments in these films, or serious messages in those films. In the Heisei series, he kind of returns to, like, or not series, but era. In the Heisei era, it's much more serious. Not necessarily grounded, but serious. So he instead, like, the characters are taken more seriously, the narrative is taken more seriously. It's not just all played for fun and jokes. And so I believe Godzilla vs. Biollante is really good. Return of Godzilla, I remember being really good. Godzilla vs. Destroya is one of my favorites. I think that's a very good movie. But it's like a lot less jokey and goofy, and there's narratives that they're trying to push and develop. And of course they won't always hit, but if you want a good story, that's kind of a good era to look at. But my fascination with the character and the films runs so deep. Now, to give some context on me personally, I am... Oh, we might be dead here, chat, actually. I don't... Okay, never mind. I'm smart. Good enough. But, to give some context on me personally, I am... And I guess it also will go into why I do YouTube a little bit, why I make videos. In school, I basically had a passion for video production. I took video production all 4 years of high school. It was basically one of, if not my favorite class. So YouTube kind of came to me as a way to continue to utilize some of the skills I had learned in that class because I was so passionate about it. And I'm personally someone who's like, if you're passionate about something and really like doing it, you should try to do it, because doing nothing with it gets you nowhere, but maybe if you try it, it opens up your mind, it helps you this or this way. So that was basically my reasoning. It's like, oh well, good thing I'm a little rich, chat. But that was basically my reasoning, is like, if I, now I'm losing my train of thought. Okay. My reasoning essentially comes down to, I enjoy making videos. I enjoy the editing process. I enjoy this process, that process, blah, 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 blah. If I sit there and do nothing with it, even though I really like doing it and I'm really passionate about it, that will get me nowhere. But maybe if I try and devote some time to it, it can get somewhere. Now, obviously, I should say this right now. Well, having like a career thanks to YouTube and like a job and stuff, that's cool. Don't get me wrong at all. I think it's really cool how people can do that. I'm much more like, I'm very much a for the bit kind of person, so I will put my own, like, I will humiliate myself for the joke, essentially. So I'm mostly doing it just because I think, one, it's fun for me, and two, it's fun for someone, right? And if I can make just one person laugh and have a better day, that's all I really care about. Because people can have the worst days imaginable, but sometimes all they need is something to kind of watch and laugh at, and their day can turn right around. Their life can turn right around, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of what I try to do, because you never know how someone's day is unless they're willing to tell you, because you can even ask, but if they're not willing to share, then no fault to them, but, you wouldn't know how their day is without them telling you. I'm kind of worried about my Moab defense show. I'll get a Dark Knight. But yeah, so I do YouTube because, one, I learned how to make videos for so long. Now granted, it was more like film, not exactly YouTube, but sketches, stuff like that, short films. And so I don't exactly execute on everything. I'd love to do sketches and short films, don't get me wrong. It's hard to get everyone that I know together to get it done at times, so. There's some issues here and there, but I'd love to look into that and do some of that going forward. Secondly, it's like, I like this, might as well put it to use somehow. I have all this time, might as well use it doing something I like instead of being unproductive in general. So it's also kind of a way to have a creative outlet whilst also, I feel like I'm doing something, right? Biggest takeaway, pursue what you like. Not doing anything with what you like gets you nowhere, but just trying, doing something, continuing to draw or making music, blah 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 blah. You never know where you can get unless you do something, so do something. That's my advice in that regard. Anyways, circling back to the original topic, I bring up being in video production and taking video production because that led to me making video essays on, well, Godzilla. It's a franchise I like so much, and as someone who'd had watched basically every movie, I realize the fact that there are messages and underlying things that people will never know, because the idea of Godzilla mainstream wise, like a lot of people who don't know the franchise or don't know the character, when they think of Godzilla, they think of, you know, cheesy monster movies, which is fine. I'm not mad at anyone for that. I might lower the sound effects a little bit. But like, I'm not upset at anyone for that. I think, you know, that is a fine kind of place to be, because that is what people like from a movie. It's just fun, a popcorn film. And I think that's a completely fine category to be in. But when you really look at this character and the history of this character, there's so much more than I think a lot of people realize. Now, obviously, the like atomic bomb symbolism and metaphor for nuclear weapons and stuff like that, it's essentially always going to be there. I think a lot of people know about that to an extent, right? Maybe not like super well versed with that, but a lot of people know, okay, yeah, he's a metaphor for nuclear weapons, blah 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 blah, or he represents this, blah 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 blah. But looking at that first movie, it's so much darker than you would think. Like, I rewatched the movie specifically for my video essay, and I did some research, and there are two scenes there. I guess there's more than two scenes, but some scenes that really stick out to me that I kind of made a point on in my video essay. There is a scene in which there are these people on a train, and I think Godzilla just hit the newspaper. Word of him had just hit the newspaper. People are just finding out, essentially, about this monster. And they're talking about, like, finding a bunker to stay safe, and like, hey, you know, save me a spot, blah 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 blah. And someone, I think a girl, is like, you know, I barely survived the atomic bomb, and now this. And it's just like, wow, you know? It kind of makes you think about it a little differently. It changes your perspective a little bit. But that movie does not shy away from talking about the horrors that Japan had faced only 9 years ago when that movie comes out. Damn, the rabbit is moving! But it does not shy away from talking about the horrors. It's, imagine like a major event in American history, like a major disaster in American history, and then within 10 years, someone's making a movie that literally, like, takes all of that fear and expresses it in a way. That's kind of the role Godzilla filled. Or I guess I should say Gojira. And so I dove into that, because 9 years ago, you know, Japan gets hit by 2 nuclear bombs. And the amount of fear that puts into any nation would be insane. And I don't think, and it really goes to show, I mean, we had Japan apologize to us for how long over Pearl Harbor? How long were they apologizing? Meanwhile, we dropped 2 nukes on them? But they had to say sorry. You know, it was their fault. And I mean, I guess you could kind of make that argument by saying like, oh, you know, if they would have just surrendered, la 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 la, but what happened is what happened. And so there's all this fear, and people are scared about, oh, this could happen again, what do we do about this, blah 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 blah. And this movie comes out, and it does not shy away from the imagery, it does not shy away from mentioning, it does not shy away from anything. When you watch through the movie, a lot of the destruction Godzilla causes is eerily similar to a lot of the things Japan had to go through, a lot of the destruction that was brought upon Japan, places in Japan that necessarily, like, weren't even doing anything. I mean, you have Godzilla, and Godzilla, after he's done with the city, basically all the imagery you see is just buildings reduced to rubble, on the floor, destroyed. There's like nothing standing left. And if you look at, I'm going to sell that because I'll have the money button in this round, or start a next round, whatever. But if you look at any sort of footage or imagery you can of the aftermath of World War II, you will see, it will look almost identical. And then there's other scenes where Godzilla goes through the city and the city is basically doused in a sea of flames. And that looks eerily similar to the fire raids that America put Japan through. And so it really does not shy away from showing that off. And another big factor is a lot of those mentions and a lot of those things are kind of taken out of the American re-release. So that's why it's important to watch the original, like, uncut Japanese version, because a lot of the more important things and like symbolism and stuff like that are just taken out of the American version in one way or another. Whether the scene is cut or maybe it's subtitled differently or blah 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 blah. Or the subtitle, yeah, I think usually it's like different subtitles. The second scene I want to talk about though, because I said there are two scenes that stick out to me. The second scene is later during one of Godzilla's attacks on the mainland. And he's, you know, I think he just uses the atomic breath, lights some buildings on fire or something. And it cuts to this alleyway, and there's this woman, seemingly a mother, holding, I think, 2 or 3 kids in her arms. And they're all crying, and the only thing she has to say is, "Do not worry, we'll be with your father soon." And that line, it's just so sad to think about, right? You are watching this family who lost the father, presumably in the war. You are watching them cower in fear as something just as destructive, because also, presumably, they lost their father due to the bombs. So you're watching them cower in fear in the face of what is essentially the same thing happening once again. And it's just like, damn. It's just so sad. I strongly urge you to watch that movie. I can't do it justice here. But it is such a good watch. It is ultimately, while Godzilla is seen as like cheesy and, you know, goofy, it's kind of like a horror movie. It is scary what happens in that film. It is scary the things they get into in that film and what they talk about. And it's all brought to a close when, like, ultimately the only way they beat Godzilla by the end is with a weapon that is more destructive than Godzilla is. Because they use something called the oxygen destroyer, which I think removes the oxygen atoms or something. Essentially, what you get shown in the movie is that first it turns fish into a skeleton, and then it disintegrates the skeletons, and there's just nothing left. So in order to stop Godzilla, they have to get the scientist who created the oxygen destroyer to permit them to use it to stop Godzilla. He's so scared to use it though, because if he uses it and someone gets their hands on it, then what's stopping it from becoming the next super weapon? Which, you know, fair enough. But on top of that, you know, he does use it, but the only way he uses it eventually, he has to be convinced at the end of the movie, and he's seeing like the destruction and death and the sadness, and that's what convinces him really. So he burns his life's work so no one can ever get their hands on it, on his research. And then he, you know, they go out to sea, they find Godzilla, and him and one of the other main characters submerge, and they find Godzilla, and he activates the oxygen destroyer, and then he cuts the tube and rope to his diving suit so he can't be pulled back up. Because if he were to stay alive, someone would drill him for the information, and he would rather die than let a new super weapon come into existence. There's just a lot to think about. The idea that the only way they could stop Godzilla is with a weapon equally, if not more destructive than Godzilla is, on top of everything else, blah blah blah. There's so much to talk about. It is an incredible movie. I highly recommend you watch it. If not for, like, legitimately, I just can't pitch the movie enough. It's such a good film. You should watch that movie, and if you don't, I will be sad. It is that good. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Obviously, you know, not saying I condone this, but if it comes to it, I'm sure you could probably find a site to watch it on. I don't know if it's, I think it's on YouTube. I think you can pay for it on, no, actually I think you can watch it free on YouTube, now that I think about it. I don't know if the subtitles are accurate, but I'm pretty sure you can watch it free on YouTube. Incredible movie. Make sure you watch that. Ultimately though, Godzilla Minus One, very similar vein, very serious, has so many deep messages it talks about, also incredible movie, and it won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. So, you know, that says something at the very least. Point is there, great movie, highly recommend you watch that movie. Both those movies are so good, and it's because they are just legitimately good movies. Simple as that. I could honestly talk about Godzilla for the rest of the video, and in an effort to not do that, I'm going to move us along to something else. So, instead of talking about Godzilla, let's talk about, I guess, future plans for the channel while I'm here. The idea I have, or I guess have had, you know, however you want to say it, my current idea, I think playing, my current idea is to just kind of make videos as long as I can, realistically. The promise of the channel is to try and get a video out every week, and that's going to be harder some weeks than others, and I'm only going to get more busy in life, so, you know, that's going to become harder and harder. I'm going to have more things to dedicate my time to other than just YouTube, as is the way of life. Would I like to be in a position where I can focus on YouTube as like a full-time profession? Of course. That would be awesome, but ultimately that's not the goal. The goal is, at the end of the day, just to know that when I upload a video, I have helped someone's day get better. That's the goal. So, in that kind of, I guess, essence, vein, I don't know what the right word is there. But in that vein, whether or not YouTube, explodes for me, and I start getting a ton of views on one video, that would be awesome, because to me, that just means more people saw what I made and more people had their day improved. It's the monetary aspect is kind of a second hand, It is nice, but it's like a secondary reward. It is not the aim of what I'm doing. Let's see. On the other hand, I'm trying to find what else, because I know I had something else I wanted to say, but now my mind is kind of blanked. Man, what else was I going to say? Now I can't remember. Anyways, we'll move on temporarily. So, as I said, money isn't necessarily the reason why I would do this. It'd be cool, sure, if I could live off YouTube, because this is what I like to do with my time, at least for the foreseeable future. Obviously, I like to do other things. I like to, get together with my friends. I like to do more than just make videos, but this is the most productive thing I can do with my time, or most productive thing I like to do with my time, with my free time, that is. So, I will continue to do it as long as I reasonably can, and if there's ever, I guess, extra incentive to pursue it, like, full-time, then that is awesome. And I would take that in a heartbeat if I could, but that is not what I expect, and that is not what I'm trying to get to. So, with that being said, kind of, what do I want to do? Well, I've said it multiple times. One, main goal, make someone have a good day. I think we're dead, chat. And whatever. I got money. That'll go there for now. But, yeah. I just want to make someone's day better, essentially. Now, as for the channel, going forward, I have a handful of projects, planned. There's also stuff I need to get to that has, basically been in pre-production hell. What comes to mind is, can Luigi survive a containment breach, an SCP containment breach? There is an outline of an idea there. The issue is that it's just kind of been stuck. I think I kind of know what I want to do, but there's just so much to SCP in general that I'm kind of at an impasse of okay, how would this realistically work? And what is important enough to make it into the video, and what are things that I might not necessarily, it's not necessarily I don't need to research, but what are things that aren't as, I guess, necessary for the video? Because I can't include everything. So, there's that aspect of it. And there's also just a lot to research, and there's a lot of interactions to go over. Because you also gotta think okay, well, there's however many SCPs in this video, now how would they all interact with Luigi? It's just a weird question. On top of that, though, I have another challenge video planned. It's not gonna put my life on the line. I have had you know who you are, and no disrespect, I do not dislike you, but there's been someone on Discord who knows who they are, who suggested so many ideas that would cause me to literally die. I played Cuphead, and every time I died in Cuphead, I had to eat a pepper, and they were like, play this game. One of their ideas was like, play Super Mario Brothers without items. Like, no power-ups, original Super Mario Brothers. I'm like, do you know how difficult that game is? That is not an easy game. Granted, could I do it? Yes, given time. But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the challenge. So again, no disrespect. I do not, you know, I appreciate the fact that you're suggesting ideas. But at the same time, please stop trying to kill me. So the next idea I have planned will not cause my death in any way. I mean, I might, you know, mauled a little bit, but it is a group video. I got some of my friends who have already agreed to be in it. And essentially, we're playing through one of my favorite games. But the whole point of it is it's kind of like a VIP president ordeal. It's a game I've played so much, and so I know like the back of my hand. I know almost everything about this game. But I am the president, and I cannot attack. I cannot fight. I cannot do anything. So our success depends on if my friends can get me through the level. And if I ever go down completely, then we have to reset the level. I can be hit, but I can't block and I can't attack. I can only run away, essentially. And if I ever drop to 0 health completely, we have to reset the level. And to me, you know, that just sounds like some good old-fashioned fun. Chaotic, hectic, sure, but fun, nonetheless. Maybe we'll get some ice. Cold snap. We did not leak one red. Anyways, that is essentially the idea. We'll get another turret back here. So, I'm like the VIP. I can't fight back. I can't. I can just run away and hope to God I survive. And so, can we basically, it's not, could we beat the game? Probably. Can we beat the game before we all start to hate each other? That's the question. So, can we beat the game before we go insane? Personally, you know, I think we can do it. I wouldn't have brought the challenge up otherwise if I thought it was impossible. I like to make challenges reasonably possible, at least as far as I can tell, like at a glance. Obviously, I could do something like, can you beat a game without pushing this button? And it could be possible, but then there's a moment where it's like, no, you need this button to get through, but then the rest of the game you don't need the button anymore. And that's also stuff I would do, but in this instance, I know the challenge is possible. It's really just a matter of whether or not we can get through it. And so I'm very excited for that. Thirdly, is this the third thing I'm talking about, or is this the second thing? I guess the third, right? Because Luigi, challenge video. Third. I guess there's 4 things we'll go over here. Freddy Fazbear is on hiatus. Freddy and Dragon Ball, the series. It used to be a video every week, but I slowly realized that the way I was making those videos, it was a lot of effort, but it was also just getting to me. It was very draining. And I think what made it worse on my end is that not only was it draining on me, but it also felt like, I'll just get sharpshooter. Although the ice kind of... And we'll be fine. We'll be fine. But essentially, it was just kind of draining. I love the idea and I love the series, but because it was always the same type of video, day in, day out, and I wasn't getting to kind of not flex my creativity as much as I wanted to, but because it was always, I felt like I was doing the same thing so much, it kind of made me realize, like, hey, I like doing this. I need a break so I can get back and reapproach it with the right mindset. 2, I need to kind of cut back on how often I do this so I can have something else in between that, 1, I can devote more time to and be happier with, and 2, it also will make it so when I'm editing Freddy and Dragon Ball, it's not like I'm editing the same video every week. And I think that's kind of what it is for me, because back when the Freddy series was still early, I released a very popular video, Can Diddy Survive 5 Nights at Freddy's? Which I still think is one of my favorite videos I made. I'd have to say my favorite might be How Well Would Freddy Do in the NBA? That might be my favorite video. I had so much fun with that. But ultimately, now, the point in time, Can Diddy Survive 5 Nights at Freddy's? Even though the videos are kind of the same style, where it's, it's scripted and then there's images on screen, it's so much different for me because one is a joke video. Like, I'm obviously taking it seriously in terms of editing and scripting, but it's meant for laughs, it's meant for fun, it's a funny, goofy idea, and there's nothing more to it than that. Whereas Freddy and Dragon Ball, like, it's a funny, goofy idea, but I'm taking it a lot more seriously in terms of, like, there's a story and a narrative to tell here, and there's places to go story-wise, which, fair. It's different, and I like that it's different. But it also kind of stops me from having as much fun with it as possible, because I just naturally like to, do the goofier stuff a little bit more. Oh, we're fine. And so, I sit there and I'm just like, okay, blah, 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 blah. But as I work on it, it's like, man, this is fun, I like this idea, but I feel like I'm not having as much fun editing it because there's not as many jokes to tell, or something like that. Whereas, Can Diddy Survive 5 Nights at Freddy's, the whole thing is a joke, so while I'm seriously editing it and trying to make it the best video it can be, all that's going through my mind is, oh, this is funny, oh, this is funny, oh, this is funny. Like, what can I do to make this funnier? How can I be funnier here? Where with, like, Freddy and Dragon Ball, it's like, okay, sure, jokes here and there, but ultimately I need to kind of be serious because there's a story to tell. And so I think that kind of is what does it for me, and that's kind of why when it comes back, it will be coming back soon. When it comes back, I think I'm going to make an episode every other week, so that way I can have something that is more serious, more narrative, more story-based, and then I can have something that is, kind of whatever I want to do. Whether it's more fun, which it likely will be. It'll likely be more focused on just having fun, doing something funny, doing something goofy. And that'll kind of segue into the 4th idea. Freddy and Dragon Ball will return, so do not worry about that. It's just the schedule will be different. Mostly on, like, to help me. I just can't handle doing it the way it's been going this whole time. I thought, you think you can do something when you start it, and then you actually are doing it for a while and you realize it's, it doesn't necessarily work out the way you thought it did. That's kind of the impasse I got to. Which, keep in mind, that's my fault. The only person who can take an L for that is me. So, But no, I'm excited for Freddy to come back. I think it'll be fun. The idea already is fun for his return, so don't worry about that. But that leads me on to the fourth thing to talk about. There's another future project. And the reason it segues so well is because it is a funny future project. And people who have been, you know, keeping up with the channel for a long time know that I teased it ages ago in the YouTube community posts. I posted an image of a thumbnail of the project, or at least at the time what I thought was a good thumbnail. I still think it's a good thumbnail. I might keep it as the thumbnail. I really like it, legitimately. But point is, I guess, you know, it's already teased, so people can go look back and find it if you want. Point is, though, Freddy Fazbear and friends will go back to sports. They are not done. There's one important thing I need to go through. One last hurdle in regards to Freddy and friends playing sports that I must jump. And initially, I had planned to get this video out ages ago, but I had such big ambitions for it that I couldn't execute on at the time. One of those being like actual skits and sketch comedy. I had planned to do skits, I had planned to do sketches for the video, as I figured, you know, it's a joke video, so I wanted to do something funny. So I even have like bits scripted. And so, they're ready to be done. I just haven't been able to get anyone together to do them. Damn, I am slow. Today I learned. Okay, we're fine. But yeah, so Freddy and friends, and I do mean and friends, a lot of his friends will come back to sports, and I'm very excited for that video when it comes out. And I promise you it will come. It will take a long time because it is a massive video. There's a lot there. I think I have all the script recorded, but I'll probably re-record it and go through the script again, just because it's old and outdated, and I want to make it as good as it can possibly be, because it's probably going to be one of my best, if not my best videos for a very long time, and one of, if not my favorite video for a very long time. I plan to get friends in on it. I plan to basically just get people in on it. So Freddy and friends will return to sports. One, I have talked to the GOAT F4 about being in the video. I do think he'll be in it. It's been so long since I talked to him about it, he might not remember, and that's okay, because to be honest, it's been so long, even I kind of forgot about it a little bit. But I will reapproach him about it, because ultimately I don't need whatever he's working on done anytime soon. There are other things I had planned for that video, but I think are just unfeasible, and I'm okay with telling you those. I had planned to get like artwork done of specific things for specific characters in that video that I think are marginally more important than some of the other characters, but that will unfortunately, I don't think that'll be possible, mostly because the person I had talked to about it is a close friend of mine, but there's just not time, and I would never push my friends to do something like that, because it's mostly like passion, and if they don't have the passion for it, for my passion project, I'm not going to make them do anything. And so I also just don't necessarily have the money to commission it, and I'm no artist myself. Granted, now what do you artistes out there see this and want to get in on it? That's fine, but there's a lot that I had planned for that video, and I'm gonna probably have to rethink it, replan the entire video, figure stuff out so I can actually get like production rolling. And then it's gonna take me a long time to edit because it'll be a monstrous video in terms of size and like how long it is. I'm already scared about the timeline and how long it'll take to export and upload, but I think it'll be so much fun because it is such an insane idea. And again, if you want to know what the idea is, it is in the YouTube community post section. I will not delete it, so you can kind of basically read up, figure out what it is, and then you'll be along for the ride. Now here is another thing, I guess, I kind of want to see in regards to that. Because it is such an ambitious project, I don't know when it'll come out. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll have it finished around the time we hit 1K. I think that would be cool for like a 1K video. Alternatively, I might just, you know, once I get it done, I might just like set it up for a premiere and just kind of announce it, drop it. But it's gonna be a great thing. You know, now I have a fifth thing to talk about. I do have a series in the works. It is another ambitious series, and I don't know when it'll come out because, unfortunately, it's something that kind of relies on, like, outside work that I just can't do myself. And I'm not one to rush anybody. I would never rush anybody, so it's kind of just waiting until it's ready. Which I'm more than fine with waiting. But I should note that, like, realistically, it's the series is kind of, it goes up when it goes up. I cannot promise, plan, or bank on any exact dates. There's just a lot of factors involved. That's kind of what the issue stems from and kind of comes down to, is there are a lot of factors, and so all I can really say is, I mean, it'll be ready when it's ready. It'll be out when it's out. And that's about it. But I think it is such a fun idea and such a cool idea. It's not necessarily the most unique concept, but it's a spin on a concept that I kind of like. And it was something that was, you know, pitched to me by a fan, and so of course, you know, I'm going to look at whatever fans pitch. And they were so passionate about it, and they had already been working on it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, well, this is just a cool idea, and you've already put so much time and effort into it. Sure, you know, I'll do it. I'll work on it. I don't mind. Because if I can help someone be passionate and, you know, execute their creativity, then of course I will. Whether that's just, like, assisting them on what I think they should do, or blah, 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 blah. I'm more than happy to help. So there's another series that I think is super cool, super fun, that hopefully will come soon. Hopefully. But ultimately, I cannot make any statements on when it drops. Because if I want to do it right, there's too many factors. If I want to do it right, there's so many factors that make it kind of undeterminable. So it's essentially just waiting until it's ready. But I think it'll be good when it is ready. Now that I've gone, I think, through everything I want to bring up when it comes to the channel and what's next for the channel, I got some questions from people. I did announce I'd be answering questions, and any questions left in the comments here, I will answer in the next one, if you are still watching to this point. But the first question, or I guess it's not necessarily a question, but the first thing that I will talk about is, you know, someone said, again, you know who you are. Like, not in a bad way, but like, if I'm answering what you said, chances are the person who I'm answering knows who they are, right? So, someone said, it's still funny and weird how Freddy is the only animatronic. Like, people asked for other DBZ characters to be the animatronics. Like what? Is the animatronics locked to a certain group or something? So, I will kind of talk about that. In regards to Freddy and Dragon Ball, more animatronics are coming, and soon. Now, what characters are going to be turned into animatronics? I won't say. What animatronics are going to be in? Once again, I will not say. I think I might have said on streams at one point or another, but I won't say. But more animatronics will come in the future of Freddy and Dragon Ball. And I'm excited to figure out how to work them in, because I think, you know, it's just fun, generally. I probably should have been farming this whole time in balloons, to be honest with you. Yeah. But more animatronics will be coming to Freddy and Dragon Ball, and it is not locked to like a specific game. So let's say, because Freddy right now is from FNAF 1, or at least that was kind of the intention. That was, you know, classic Freddy. It doesn't matter what game they're from. They can still be in the series. Granted, it makes sense. So, it could be a Security Breach character, it could be someone from FNAF 4, it could be Pizzeria Simulator, realistically, anybody. Is there anything else there? I guess there's not much else to say, but yeah. More animatronics are coming into that franchise. I'm not going to oversaturate it with like a whole bunch of FNAF characters, but when it makes sense for it to be a FNAF character, then I guess it would be a FNAF character, right? When it makes sense. And then, yes, secondly, it does not matter what what game the character is from. If that character makes sense for that spot or that role, or I think just has a cool idea behind it, when put into that role, then it makes sense. I will say though, like, Frieza is still Frieza. Frieza would not change, I don't think. But some other characters will change. Secondly, and this question caught me way off guard. I was asked, is Jake Paul really your dad? And this question really stood out to me because, now, I'm friends with this person on Steam, and that has to be how they found out. But one Steam username, and I swapped between like 6 separate spellings of it, because I didn't know exactly how to spell it, or not spell it, but like how to display it. But one Steam display name I had was Jake Paul is my dad. I don't know why. I think one of my friends had Logan Paul as my mom. And I think it was basically just done at the time when clowning on Jake and Logan Paul was the thing. Because also on Steam, one of my previous usernames is Logang for Life, which I just think is kind of a fun username. I think it's my username in like Multiverses, which I don't really play. I have played, and I did play, but I don't really play it right now, or anymore. But my username in that game is literally like Logang for Life. Just because I just think it's funny, especially because he doesn't use Logang anymore as far as I'm aware. And I always just thought the term Logang was goofy. Like, calling people your low gangsters is like, what? Bro, what? So, to answer the question, no, Jake Paul is not really my dad. I mean, that would probably be a luxurious life to live. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I'd want Jake Paul to be my dad. I am happy with the father I have. Yeah, Jake Paul as my dad does not sound fun in the slightest. No, not at all. Let's see what else is there to talk about in regards to that. I guess nothing really. I will say though that like there's a lot of like, I guess, clowning or jokes made on out of my dad's expense where we just call him different names, but I don't think we've ever actually called him Jake Paul. I don't think that was ever one of the names he got, was Jake Paul. Which is good. I would not want to be called Jake Paul. That guy... I mean, he did beat 58-year-old Mike Tyson, everybody. I will... No, we can't discredit him that much. He did beat 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Which is also crazy to me, because he's like, again, 58-year-old Mike Tyson. Now, granted, you can do whatever you want. And beating Mike Tyson is beating Mike Tyson. That there's a statement to be made there. But he's 58. I'm very much like... I think... I don't know, dude. It's just... How much does a win against a... How much does a win by decision against a 58-year-old Mike Tyson mean? If you're not... I mean, the fact that he didn't get knocked out... kind of... Especially because Jake was like, oh, I'll knock him out, I'll knock him out, I'll knock him out. And then he just didn't. Like, brother, Mike Tyson is 58 years old and you didn't knock him out? So, you know, that's just 58-year-old Mike Tyson is just so crazy. I can't believe Russ stepped in the ring at 58 years old. And then he said he'll fight Logan Paul, and Logan Paul said he'll F him up. Which probably, I mean, he's just so old, dude. You can tell, like, it's not like he has no experience. You can tell he can still go. It's just that he's kind of too old to go at that level. I'm just gonna buy the flying fortress. I think we're basically safe. Pop that. Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, 58-year-old Mike Tyson, Jake Paul is not my dad. And happily, thankful to say, Jake Paul's, if there's one thing at Thanksgiving I was thankful for, it's the fact that Jake Paul's not my dad. Yeah, I don't think there's anything really else for me to say there, unless I want to talk about the fact that Jake Paul boxed a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. I will say, I did see, I think on X.com, formerly known as Twitter, that Andrew Tate said he would box Jake Paul. Now, I'm not saying I like Andrew Tate, but a war of the shitheads would be fun to watch, right? Like, who's the biggest shithead, who's the strongest shithead? At that point, I don't really care who wins. I just want both the shitheads to get the ever-living crap beaten out of them, right? So, you know, I don't know. There's a lot to say about Jake Paul and his boxing career. Obviously, I don't box, but I think a lot of people who do box kind of look down upon it because, like, bro is fighting older or retired people. He doesn't have a lot of experience against active boxers or boxers his age. So, it is what it is. Personally, I don't put too much stakes in it. I don't see the point, but, you know, to each their own, I suppose. Now, I guess with that, I mean, we're almost at the end of this. So, oh shoot, oh shoot. Oh, never mind. We live. Oh, I should have gotten mine. Let me just grab 2 of these. Should have picked these up before. But yeah, we'll be fine. Oh, could bro not see that? Bro almost sold us because he couldn't see the camos. Okay, well, I think that'll actually be the end of this video, this, I guess, episode of Hit series in the SirWumbo YouTube channel called Let's Rant, because realistically that's all I did was rant about things and talk about things and ramble about things. But I had fun. Did you not have fun? I mean, I would hope you had some sort of fun. Realistically, the purpose of this is just to give you some background noise. Maybe you're working on something, maybe you're doing something, and then you have something to listen to, something to, think about, talk about, react to, respond with. And that's kind of what I want to give. So, if you have anything you want me to talk about next time, leave it down below. And I will look at comments on YouTube. If you want to be involved in future videos, join the Discord server. Trust me, there is an importance to that. I do check the ideas. I mostly make shorts out of the out of the Discord ideas. But I am trying to think of ways to incorporate the Discord audience into a video. And more often than not, a lot of people who are in streams, like the Cuphead video, they are also in the Discord server. The Discord server basically just is kind of first to know everything, first to hear everything. They are way more up to date than anywhere else. So if you want to be up to date, and if you want to be more involved on YouTube and like in the video side of things, join the Discord server. I will say though, ideas to talk about in this series on YouTube get priority, because I also want to interact with YouTube people. So any ideas that are left here on YouTube, I will go over first, and then Discord ideas for the series will be second. So, with that, I hope you all have a super duper fantastic day, night, whatever time of day it is when you are watching this. And I will see you all next time.